Hi guys, wishing you all a very happy World Storytelling Day. And here I am, Aniket Amdekar, and today I'm going to tell you a story about trust. You see, trust is so important to all of us. Now let's get started. It was 1950. There was a huge cruise ship standing at the deck, all ready. 5 minutes to go, and the ship is going to sail from America to Germany. And while this is happening, there are lots of people waiting at the harbor, waving bye bye to all of their friends and family members. Now, while all this is happening, one man just walks in. He has a leather bag in his hand with wide and broad shoulders. He's wearing a hat. He has a handsome suit, and his shoes are doing the beautiful sound of tap, 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 tap as he walks on the road and as he walks up the cruise ship. Now he's on the deck as well, looking at everyone, hundreds of people, everyone waving bye-bye, and the ship goes gong, 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 gong. 4 minutes to go. And that's when the man suddenly remembers he has to give a message. He runs to the captain, the captain was in the main office, and he says, I need to make an announcement. So he grabs the mic and says, Mr. Nopin, I will be there in 2 weeks. Mr. Nopin, I will be there in 2 weeks. With that being done, now the ship starts to cruise. And our hero is Mr. Hero. That's his surname. Mr. Hero starts to talk to a lot of people, clutching his leather bag tightly with him. Mr. Hero is someone who takes pride in the work that he does. He is a courier. Back then there were no DHLs to do international couriers. So he was the one who was entrusted for delivering a highly valuable item all the way from America to Germany. So as he is on the cruise ship, days start to pass by. It's a 2 weeks journey. The first week went so smooth because the days are just rolling on one after the other. And as it's a cruise ship, they are getting all kinds of cuisine. They are getting amazing breakfast, lunch and dinner and snacks and songs and dances and parties all the time. Mr. Hero felt like he is in heaven. And that's when he met a curious gentleman by the name Mr. Sony. Mr. Sony was a stout man, and he was a little plump as well. He was just holding his hands behind his back and looking at the endless sea one day, when Mr. Hero joined in and says, what are you looking at? He says, nothing. Just looking at those birds. How are they flying in formation? And they form a V, they form a W, all kinds of characters they form sometimes. And Mr. Hero found this really interesting. So after the 7 days are done, on the 8th day, when entire cruise ship was sleeping, at 4 a.m., everyone heard a noise. Boom! Everyone was awoken with a shaking because the entire cruise ship was shaking. And while all this was happening, Mr. Hero got up. He says, something is happening, something is wrong. He quickly clutched his little bag to his chest. You see, this entire previous 1 week, Mr. Hero could not let go of the bag that he was having. That's why he befriended Mr. Sony. So he said, Mr. Sony, now I'm going to go and have breakfast. While I go there, you protect my room. And while you go and have breakfast, I will protect your room. And that was the deal. So none of them were actually leaving their room unattended because they were so paranoid. So the moment that entire cruise ship was awoken at 4 a.m., Mr. Hero quickly clutched his bag and said, something is going wrong. Mr. Sony said, no, I don't think so. It's probably it's just some turbulence. Some kind of a wind must be flowing, and that's why Mr. Hero says, I have traveled in enough ships and this does not happen. This level of shaking can only happen in one case. And let's hope against the hope that is not the case. So both of them ran to the deck and they met the captain. And they said, Captain, what happened? The captain said, we have hit an iceberg. And with those words sent a chill down the spine of Mr. Hero, because he knew what can happen when an entire cruise ship hits an iceberg. So he said, Mr. Captain, what happened? Are we okay? Do you think we can still move on? Or are we in trouble? Mr. Sony, on the other hand, had no clue what's happening. He said, what's an iceberg? So the captain, wearing his white uniform, his white cap, and with a white beard, said, an iceberg is a huge piece of ice with a little tip on top of the water, but a huge mountain underneath. So when a cruise ship hits an iceberg, we have to stop. Now, as they said, what's going to happen? Mr. Captain said, something bad has happened. This iceberg has hit our engines and the engines are down. You see, they were going on this direction, but suddenly, now they can't, because the iceberg has stopped them. So they said, okay, we need to send somebody to go over that direction, actually go in this direction, because there are the people who can help us. We need somebody to go and bring the engineers who can come and fix the engine. But who would go? Because the main people who are going to travel by this, they got hurt during the impact. So someone from the passengers needs to go and get help from them. So as they all started to contemplate, who can go? Can it be that fellow or this fellow or that couple over there? Well, they just realized that most of the people on this deck were beyond 50. So they were not fit enough to actually travel, to actually take that risk, because nobody understood the kind of voyage was ahead of them. So there were only two people who were holding their hands behind their back and with their chest straight, filled with pride. Mr. Hero said, I will go. And Mr. Sony will come with me. And Mr. Sony said, yes, I'm coming with you. Really? Sure. Okay. If you say so. Okay, I'll go with him. Yes, count me in. So now Mr. Hero and Mr. Sony are sitting on a small boat, and that boat is being rolled down. And as soon as the boat hit the water, the reality hit Mr. Sony and Mr. Hero in their face, because that water was chilly. It was like they're walking into a fridge, except that fridge is the entire sea ahead of them. Now, Mr. Hero starts to paddle. 1, 2, 3. Yes. 1, 2, 3. Yes. 1, 2, 3. Yes. 1, 2, 3. Yes. And Mr. Sony is sitting and looking at him. What is this? Yes, 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 yes. You want to invite the sharks or what? Mr. Hero says, "Yo, no. This is the way I can pump myself with energy. We have an entire frozen sea ahead of us. We have to break this ice and reach that mountain and go beyond that mountain and get the help so our ship can start to sail again." Mr. Sony is just holding his head. How are we going to do that? He has no idea. But then, after a while, Mr. Sony saw something. Mr. Hero's hands were swollen. His face was swollen. He was not able to breathe properly because it's the chilly wind which is hitting him straight in the face. He's not even able to paddle anymore. And that is when Mr. Sony said, "Okay, let me do it for some time now." So he started to say, "Okay, let me try. Okay, let me try. Okay, let's start. Start? Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh my god. Must have been at least 1 hour, right? Mr. Hero, has it been 1 hour? Mr. Hero said, not 1 hour. 5 minutes you have been sailing, only 5 minutes. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And finally, somehow, Mr. Hero and Mr. Sony reach the mountain. And now they are climbing that mountain. As they reach the top of the mountain, Mr. Sony just collapses. And Hero says, okay, you stop here. I will go to the town and I'll get help. You just stay here. You take this light with you, and if there is any animal that comes nearby, just point it in their eyes. So Sony is now better. He's feeling a bit more confident. Mr. Sony says, okay, I'll do that. And Mr. Hero is now walking down a mountain in the middle of the night with no lights to guide him, purely the will and the courage that he had in his heart was showing him the way. After going in for 16 hours, he finally reached the town. He reached a bar, he opened the door, and he felt like he is about to melt because the warmth of that bar just hit him. The blood in his veins started to flow again. He could think more clearly. So he went to the headman. He told them the problem. The headman said, okay, so if you have this problem, you can stay in our village for a night. I will send the people over there, okay? I'll have a boat filled with 3 technicians. They will go and fix your boat. Meanwhile, you stay here, okay? Mr. Hero was much obliged. So he stayed there that night. He got his strength back. The next morning, he climbed that mountain again. But as he was climbing the mountain, that precious bag that he was so holding on to, that he was protecting more than his life, that bag just slipped through his shirt. And as the bag started to roll down towards the mountain, he had the choice, just like all of us do. Sometimes we have to choose what's more important to us. Mr. Hero chose that trust that was given to him by someone, that's more important than his life. So he jumped towards the railing. He jumped down a mountain, started to slide and captured that bag, caught near his chest, and then somehow he started to climb again. But all the strength that he had captured had now vanished. His hands, his face, his back was all scratched really bad. With all the will that he had, he pulled Mr. Sony up. Both of them got on the boat. They sailed on the boat and they reached the cruise ship, only to see the cruise ship was now ready. The entire population was waiting at the deck with something in their hand. They were all saying, Mr. Hero, 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 Mr. Hero, Hero, Hero. Yes, they had reached. The boat is started. The cruise is started. Ready to go to Germany. So, how do we go there? As they got on, they got the hero's welcome that they deserved for the tremendous amount of courage that they had shown in this voyage. The boat reached Germany 7 days later. As the boat reached Germany, Mr. Hero walked into the office of Mr. Nuve. He was ready to deliver his package. He was so excited. He had no idea what was in that package. He had no idea what the value was. He had no idea who he is going to meet. But for him, only one thing mattered, and that one thing was trust. Is it important to you how much somebody trusts you? It was very important to Mr. Hero. So as he walked into the office, he saw that the chair was actually towards the back. He said, "Oh, so you are here. Mr. Hero, where is my package?" Mr. Hero said, "Oh, your package. Uh-huh. Here you have your package." As he dropped that package on the desk, Mr. Hero gave him a lot of money. He said, that all money is now yours. Mr. Hero took the money and he started to leave. That's when Mr. Noon, he said, okay, but wouldn't you want to know what's in the bag? Hero said, actually, yes, I do. I want to know what's in the bag. He said, in the bag is just a message. Do you want to read it? Mr. Hero said, yes. So then Mr. Noon opened the bag, pulled the message and said, Mr. Hero, you are now being hired for the most courageous mission on earth. What? So all this time, all this courage, all this journey that I went through was for nothing? Was for this one single message? Mr. Noon said, you see, that voyage, that was your test. And you have aced that test. And which is why I want to hire you. The real package was you, Mr. Hero, not that message. The real package was you, your determination, strength, and most importantly, how you kept my trust. That's why I want to hire you for an important mission. What the mission is, I'm going to cover in the next story. How did you feel about this story? I can see Vijaya Lakshmi had joined and a few more friends have joined as well. I wish all of you a happy World Storytelling Day. I hope you have liked this story. If you did, do like the Facebook page of Storyland. This is where I'm going to tell some more and more stories from Vanar Sena. I'm going to tell stories from Mahabharata in the coming summer season. So I'm going to meet you again. Next time I meet you, I'm going to tell a story in Marathi, in my mother tongue. And it's going to be a story about Shivaji. So hi Ashish, thank you for joining in. So that's going to be a story about Shivaji. What did you feel about this story? Can you put that into the chat? And what is your favorite story? What's that one story that you like to hear over and over again and you'd never get bored of it? Mayur Peshwe, thank you so much for joining in, Mitra. Okay, so I'm going to see you in a few hours to tell you the story of Shivaji. So I hope you would be joining in. Bye-bye. How do I end this Facebook Live? Okay, the user interface on